This is the Buffett Mindset channel where we practice patience and calm wealth building daily. If you enjoy these types of videos, consider liking and subscribing. This will mean a lot to the channel. What you're walking through right now, I know it feels endless. The weight on your shoulders, the silence in your chest, the whisper in your head telling you, maybe I can't keep going. But let me tell you something plain, son. You are not here by accident. The ground beneath you, the storm around you, the fire you're caught in, this ain't punishment, it's preparation. Every hardship that presses down on you is shaping you into the kind of man who can stand when others fall, into the kind of spirit that cannot be broken by wind or time or fear. You say the road is hard? Good. That means it's the right road. Nobody climbs a mountain and expects the trail to be smooth. Nobody forges steel without fire. You're feeling the resistance because you're pushing at the edge of who you used to be. The weak version of you is dying right now, and dying hurts. But don't mistake the pain of transformation for the pain of destruction. You are not being destroyed. You are being reforged. Let me give you a picture. A farmer plants a seed deep in the cold dirt. That seed, if it had a voice, would probably cry out, "It dark here, it heavy, I can't breathe. Why did you bury me?" But the farmer knows something the seed don't know, that the weight of the soil is not its death, it's its birthplace. That very pressure is what cracks it open and brings it to life. You, right now, you are that seed, buried, pressed, straining, but if you don't quit, if you push through, the same weight that feels like it crushing you will become the force that makes you rise. Now listen to me close. Every man hears the voice that says quit. The difference is the weak obey it and the strong answer back. You've got to learn to talk louder than your fear, louder than your excuses. You've got to stand up inside your own skull and declare, I do not quit, I don't retreat, I don't lay down when it's hard, I rise when it's hard. Say it until your bones believe it, until your blood carries it, until it no longer words but law written inside you. Do you think the great ones were spared from the struggle? Do you think Andrew Carnegie built steel empires by skating on smooth roads? He came here poor, an immigrant with nothing but grit and a willingness to endure. His first wages could barely feed him, but he learned to see the hardship as the very training ground for destiny. Every telegram he carried, every night he spent with little to nothing in his pockets was hammering his will. So when the chance came, when the doors cracked open, he didn't freeze. He didn't hesitate. He walked through with a steady hand because the fire had already burned the weakness out of him. And here you sit in your own fire. Maybe at debt, maybe at loneliness, maybe at that dream that looks so far away you can't see the end. Whatever it is, I need you to see it clear. This isn't the end of your story. This is the forge, and the forge always hurts. But the forge always makes you stronger than you were before. You cannot soften now. You cannot fold. You cannot let the lie of quitting crawl into your mind. Quitting looks sweet for a moment, but it robs you forever, because once you give in to it, once you bow your knee to it, quitting gets easier and easier until your whole life is built of broken starts and abandoned roads. And you were not born to abandon. You were not born to crawl. You were born to stand. I'll tell you something else. Hardship is not a stranger come to break you. It is a companion sent to teach you. It strips away what you don't need. It shows you what real. It burns off the excuses, the illusions, the fragile masks. And when it done, only the steel remains. That's why most men crumble, because they mistake the burning for the ending. But those who endure, those who hold fast, discover the burning was never the end at all. It was the beginning of a stronger, truer, unshakable self. So hear me now. Don't you dare quit. Not after all the nights you bled for this. Not after all the days you carried the weight no one saw. Not after all the scars that already prove your fight. You're too close to fold. The victory is never across some distant horizon. It always just beyond the pain, just past the point most men turn back. That's why it's so hard, because you're right near the gate, and fear is guarding it with everything it has. Push once more, step once more, breathe once more, and the gate will crack. The man you will be on the other side of this hardship will not even recognize the man sitting here now. He'll be steadier, sharper, richer in soul, and he will thank you, the you who chose not to quit when it hurt, the you who chose to endure instead of surrender. So stand tall, even if your knees shake. Breathe deep, even if your chest is tight, and take the next step. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because this moment right here is the fire, and you were born to walk through it. Now that you understand the fire isn't here to end you, but to forge you, let me hand you the laws of endurance, the truths that carried every great man through the storms that should have drowned around him. These are not theories. These are not polished phrases meant to sound clever. They are iron principles, tested in blood, sweat, failure, and triumph. And if you carve them into your mind, they will carry you when your body begs you to stop, when your heart grows faint, when your spirit trembles. Law 1. The pain is proof you are alive. Most men see pain and run. They treat discomfort as the enemy, when in reality it's the truest sign they're still in the fight. A boxer doesn't curse the punch that rattles his jaw, he grins, because the sting means he's still standing. So it is with you. Pain does not mean it's time to quit. Pain means the muscle is being built. Pain means your old self is dying and the stronger self is being born. If you can learn to love the sting, you will walk where others crawl. Law 2. The breakthrough is always one step deeper than the breaking point. This is a cruel but consistent law of life. The world will always test you at the edge of your capacity. You will always feel the heaviest burden right before the dawn. It like mining for gold, most quit inches from the vein. The ground is hardest just before it breaks open. You must train your mind to see fatigue not as a stop sign, but as the marker that tells you the treasure is near. Law 3. Do not trust feelings in the storm. Feelings are fickle. They rise and fall with sleep, with hunger, with the weather, with the smallest shift in circumstance. If you make your decisions by how you feel when you're tired or sore or afraid, you will never finish anything. Endurance is not built on feelings. Endurance is built on commitment, on a decision made once and obeyed daily. No matter how the heart trembles, the storm always lies. It tells you you're too weak, too late, too far gone. Never listen. Anchor yourself to principle, not to the noise of passing emotion. Law 4. Discipline outlasts motivation. Motivation is like a firework. It burns bright, it makes a lot of noise, and then it disappears. Discipline is the slow-burning coal. It doesn't always look impressive, but it will still be burning long after the fireworks are gone. The man who survives the hard seasons is not the man with the most passion in the beginning. It's the man with the discipline to do the right thing when he feels nothing. Train your will to obey the mission, not your moods. Law 5. Silence your enemy by your action, not your argument. When the going gets hard, the voices get loud. Fear, doubt, people who don't believe in you. You'll be tempted to fight them with words, to prove them wrong before you finish the work. Don't. The storm doesn't care about speeches. The world doesn't reward excuses. Only action silences the enemy. Only persistence buries doubt. Build while they laugh. Push while they sneer. Endure until their noise dies in the shadow of your results. Law 6. Rest is not retreat. Understand this clearly. A warrior who never rests dies with his sword still in hand. A builder who never pauses collapses under his own walls. Rest is not weakness. Rest is strategy. The oak tree doesn't stretch toward the sky in winter, yet it is not dead. It is conserving strength. Learn to pause without quitting. Learn to rest without surrender. There is a difference. Sleep, breathe, heal, and then rise again with twice the force. Law 7. Your hardship is someone else's hope. Every time you endure, you are carving a trail that someone else will follow. The man who holds fast when he could have quit becomes a lighthouse to others drowning in their own storm. When you survive, you don't just prove yourself strong, you give permission for others to rise too. That means your endurance is bigger than you. Your struggle isn't just about your dream, it's about everyone who will draw strength from your refusal to break. Think about the men we admire most in history. Did they have easy lives? No, they were hammered, tested, crushed, doubted. Baldwin IV ruled a kingdom with disease ravaging his body. Carnegie clawed out of poverty. Edison failed thousands of times before he lit the world. None of them were spared the fire, but they endured, and because they endured, we call them giants. The only difference between them and the millions whose names we've forgotten is this: they didn't quit, they didn't fold. They lived these laws until their bones obeyed them. And let me tell you the truth that most will never accept. Life will not hand you ease, it will hand you fire, and the fire will ask you one question: will you endure? If the answer is yes, not once, not for a week, but daily, relentlessly, unshakably yes, then the fire will pass, and what it leaves behind will not just be a man, it will be a force. So take these laws, write them down, burn them into your mind, and when the storm rises again, and it will, repeat them until the lies of fear are drowned in the voice of truth. The going is hard. Good. That means you are close. Do not quit. Now let me show you what these laws look like in the flesh, not in theory. For it is one thing to nod your head at wisdom, and another to watch it walk in a man's footsteps. Picture a young man, we'll call him James. James was not born into wealth or power. His father was a laborer, his mother a seamstress, and the house they lived in leaned with age like a weary soldier. From the start, James knew the taste of scarcity. He knew what it meant to stretch food for days, to patch clothes until the patches themselves wore thin. But James carried something inside him most men overlook, a quiet hunger. He didn't hunger only for bread. He hungered for meaning, for proof that the struggle wasn't in vain. He wanted to rise, not just for himself, but for everyone who ever looked at their life and believed survival was the best they could hope for. So he started small. He read what little he could find, borrowed books, discarded newspapers, scraps of wisdom tucked between hard days. And as he grew, so did his ambition. He wanted to build, to create, to carve his name into the rock of time. But life, as it always does, tested him. His first attempt at business collapsed before it could stand. He poured his savings into it, only to watch the numbers bleed red. People whispered, laughed, told him to take the safe route. Steady wages, no dreams. But James remembered Law 1. Pain is proof you are alive. He told himself, if this burns, it means I'm still in the fight. And instead of crawling back, he stayed on his feet. The second venture wasn't much kinder. He was cheated by a partner, left with debts that clung to him like chains. Nights came when he couldn't sleep, when shame whispered he was a fool. But then he remembered Law 2. The breakthrough is always one step deeper than the breaking point. He clenched his fists and said, if this is the edge, then the other side must be close. So he pressed forward. By the third attempt, James was no longer the same man who started. He didn't rely on fleeting feelings because he had learned Law 3. Do not trust feelings in the storm. His feelings screamed at him to quit, to save himself, to retreat into smallness. But his commitment was louder. He made a decision once that he would not leave this earth without building something greater than the life he was handed, and that decision carried him when feelings would have buried him. Years passed, and James grew seasoned. His back was straighter, his eyes sharper. He no longer relied on bursts of passion, for he had mastered Law 4. Discipline outlasts motivation. He built habits like bricks, reading daily, working methodically, saving every dollar with purpose. He understood that greatness was not built in explosions but in steady fire. And while the world mocked him, called him obsessed, laughed at his empty pockets, James kept silent. He had learned Law 5. Silence your enemy by your action, not your argument. He let his hands speak louder than his words. When critics barked, he worked. When they jeered, he built. Until one day, the very same mouths that had mocked him were silent, unable to deny the monument his endurance had raised. But he was no fool. James knew even warriors must pause. He learned Law 6. Rest is not retreat. When his body ached, he rested without guilt. When fatigue clouded his vision, he slept without shame. But always, always, he rose again. Rest was never an end, only a sharpening of the blade. And in time, as his ventures grew, as his work began to flourish, James saw something greater. Law 7. Your hardship is someone else's hope. Young men came to him with the same hunger he once carried, looking for a path. He showed them his scars, told them the truth, that nothing great was built without walking through fire. His endurance became their compass, his story their anchor. He had endured not just for himself, but for everyone who needed to see that survival is not the ceiling, it is the floor. James' name eventually became known. His wealth grew, his influence spread, but that was never the true treasure. The true treasure was the man he became, unbreakable, steady, forged by fire. And though many called him lucky, James knew better. He knew the laws. He knew the nights he refused to quit when every nerve screamed surrender. He knew the storms that tried to drown him, the debts that tried to chain him, the failures that tried to bury him, and he knew he had endured. So I ask you, what will your story be? When the storm rises, and it always will you fold like the many, or will you endure like the few? Will you hand your power to fear, or will you take the fire and let it refine you? Because here is the truth. The world does not remember the man who almost endured. It remembers the man who would not stop, the one who bore the pain, embraced the struggle, carried the weight, and walked out of the fire unrecognizable to who he once was. That is the man the world bends for. That is the man destiny crowns. Stand still for a moment. Close your eyes, breathe, and listen. The storm is loud, yes. The ground shakes, yes. Your heart is heavy, yes. But you are not broken. You are breathing. And while breath remains in your lungs, the fight is not finished. Repeat these words and let them carve themselves into your bones. I will not quit. I will not bend. I will not surrender what is mine to fear. I will not give in to feelings that lie. I will not give my destiny away for comfort. Say it again, louder this time. Let it echo against the walls of your doubt. I will not quit. I will not bend. I will not surrender. I will not give in. I will not give away what I was born to build. Hear me. Every man and woman who has ever walked the path of greatness felt what you feel. They tasted fear. They carried doubt. They stared at failure and thought of quitting. But they spoke words like these into the darkness, and the darkness fled. When you rise in the morning and your body begs you to stay in bed, say it. I will not quit. When the plan collapses voices and the numbers turn red, whisper it like fire through your teeth, I will not bend. When the critics laugh, when the world mocks, when you are tempted to argue and defend, clench your jaw and declare, I will not surrender what is mine to fear. When the storm drags at your spirit, when your feelings tell you it is hopeless, anchor yourself with the vow, I will not give in to feelings that lie. And when comfort calls, when the easy road opens wide with promises of rest and ease, turn away and proclaim, I will not give away what I was born to build. This is your meditation, not the soft kind that only soothes, but the sharp kind that builds iron in your veins. The meditation of warriors, kings, builders, survivors. Words are weapons, and this is your sword. Do not underestimate what daily vows can do. You think repetition is small, but repetition is the forge. Every day you repeat this, the steel in you hardens. Every day you speak it, the weaker voices in you grow quiet. And soon, what began as words becomes reality. You will not quit. You will not bend. You will not surrender. Now let me remind you of something you may have forgotten. Every storm has a limit. Every wave that crashes against you will eventually exhaust itself. No fire rages forever. No winter lasts without end. But you can last. You can outlast them all. Pain is temporary. Shame is temporary. Loss is temporary. But the man or woman who endures becomes permanent, carved into history, unmovable, unforgettable. Think of James, the man who failed twice before he rose. Think of every soul who once stood where you stand now, weary, beaten, tempted to fold. The only difference between them and the nameless masses who vanished in silence is this: they stayed one step longer. They outlasted the breaking point. So here is your command: endure, stay one step longer, hold one breath deeper, push one moment further. While the world waits for you to collapse, remain standing. While fear tells you to run, plant your feet. While doubt screams that it is over, smile and whisper, watch me endure. Because hear the secret: the moment you refuse to quit, you've already won. The victory may not appear at once, the gold may not fall into your hands tomorrow, the world may not kneel the same day you declare your vow, but the crown is already moving toward you. Time itself is bending toward the unbreakable. So carry this meditation with you, day and night. When the shadows stretch long, when the fire burns close, when your knees tremble, speak it again. I will not quit. I will not bend. I will not surrender what is mine to fear. I will not give in to feelings that lie. I will not give away what I was born to build. Say it when you wake. Say it when you work. Say it when you fall. Say it until your bones know it better than your skin. And when the storm tests you, when the fire surrounds you, you will not have to think. The vow will rise from you like instinct, and you will endure. Picture this, partner. The air is heavy. The ground beneath you trembles like it knows a reckoning is coming. You stand at the edge of a wide and endless field, the field of your life. And across that field, shadows gather. They are not strangers. You know their faces: doubt, fear, weariness, shame, comfort, all lined up like soldiers, waiting for you to lay down your weapon. They do not rush. No, they are clever. They whisper, you're tired. Lay down. You've done enough. Stop here. You're not strong enough for what comes next. And the worst whisper of all, no one will notice if you quit. That is their attack. Not blades, not bullets, but lies. Lies that slither through the cracks in your armor. Lies that sound like truth because they echo your own voice. And if you bow to them, if you hand over the fight, then they've won without lifting a hand. But not tonight. Not here. Not you. You plant your boots in the dirt. You grip the sword of your vow, the meditation you've been carving into your bones every sunrise and sunset. You raise it high and shout into the storm, I will not quit. I will not bend. I will not surrender. The shadows reel back, startled. You see it now. They are not giants. They are not titans. They are paper thin, swollen by your fear, fattened by your hesitation. When you swing the blade of your vow, they scatter like smoke. The battlefield grows quiet, and for the first time, you realize the truth. Every trial you've ever faced was never about destroying you. It was about revealing you. Pressure didn't arrive to crush you. It arrived to carve away the false self so the real one could stand tall. The storms weren't here to drown you. They were here to wash the rust off your steel. And now, as the rain beats down and thunder rolls overhead, you stand unbroken. You see what the shadows tried to hide, the gate ahead, the gate of your destiny. It is guarded not by chains, not by locks, but by resistance itself. That is the toll. That is the test. Only those who do not turn back may pass through. This is why men like Carnegie endured, why Solomon spoke wisdom over kingdoms, why Buffett kept his discipline when others ran wild with greed. They all knew what you are learning now, that hardship is not the wall, it is the door. But most will never walk through it because the door is made of fire. Now the question burns in you like the storm. Will you walk through? Listen close. The fire will sting. The smoke will choke. You will think you cannot last. But if you step forward, if you put one foot through that blaze, everything changes. On the other side is the man you are always meant to be, stripped of excuses, sharpened by pain,
refined by fire. That man does not fear storms. That man does not bow to shadows. That man is you, waiting to be born. Do not mistake me. This is not easy. Nothing worth a crown was ever easy. Empires are not handed, they are hewn. Fortunes are not gifted, they are ground out of stone. Wisdom is not whispered into ears that rest, it is carved into hearts that bleed. But you are here because something in you refuses to settle. That why you're still listening. That why you haven't walked away. That why no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how tempting the exit, you are still standing in this field, sword in hand, eyes on the gate. And I'll tell you the secret, the one the quitters never learn. The gate does not open for the strongest. It does not open for the fastest. It opens for the one who refuses to turn back. It opens for endurance. It opens for the soul that whispers again and again, not today, not ever. I will not quit. So let the rain fall harder. Let the storm rage. Let the shadows hiss their lies. None of it matters. You know the truth now. The fire is the passage. The storm is the teacher. The pain is the proof. Step forward, warrior. The world is watching. The field is waiting. And your destiny will not come to you. You must take it with fire in your lungs and steel in your hands. And when they ask you one day, how did you survive the storm? How did you endure when the world broke around you? You will not boast. You will not cry. You will not explain. You will simply smile and whisper the vow that carried you through. I did not quit. I did not bend. I did not surrender. And now, I have built what I was born to build. They're a truth I've come to know after a lifetime of riding through storms. A truth that men forget when the road gets heavy. Endurance is the greatest form of wealth. It don't sound fancy, it don't glitter, and you can't hang it on the wall, but it's the kind of wealth that outlasts markets, outlasts kings, and outlasts the bones of the men who carry it.
See, gold can vanish, titles can be stripped, friends may scatter, and fortune may roll away like tumbleweed. But endurance? That a treasure no one can steal. It buried deep in your marrow, welded into your soul. And the man who owns it cannot be broken, not by storm, not by scarcity, not by the weight of years. When Solomon spoke of wisdom being more precious than rubies, I believe this was part of what he meant. Wisdom ain't just knowledge, it's the courage to keep walking when your legs shake. It's the patience to plant when the ground looks barren. It's the faith to rise again after you've been struck down. And Warren Buffett, the quiet fella from Omaha, he understood the same thing, though he spoke it with the language of money. He'd say the market is designed to transfer wealth from the impatient to the patient. But what he meant runs deeper than stocks. Life itself is designed to hand over her greatest treasures to the ones who endure. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, the ones who simply stay, work, wait, and refuse to quit. You see, the going gets hard for every man. Don't think for a second you've been singled out. Every empire you admire was built under storm clouds. Every leader you respect once sat in darkness, staring at an empty road, wondering if the fight was worth it. And every voice you hear in history, the voices that echo through time, they were forged by the same fire that licking at your heels right now. The difference is simple. They stayed. Carnegie stayed when the hunger gnawed. Edison stayed when the light failed him 1,000 times. Solomon stayed when the weight of a kingdom pressed down on his shoulders. Buffett stayed through wars, through recessions, through panics that made other men claw at the exits. Staying, that is the art. And don't you mistake staying for sitting still. No, staying is the decision not to flee, not to fold, not to forsake the path. It's taking the next step when your boots are heavy. It's swinging the hammer when your hands blister. It's drawing water from the well even when your back screams. That's staying. And let me tell you something, friend. The world don't reward the man who quits when it rains. She don't hand her harvest to the ones who abandon the field in the storm. No, the world tests every man the same way, by asking, will you stand here in the mud until the sun returns? Most will walk away. They'll shake their heads and curse their luck. But the few, the stubborn, the steady, they wait. They endure. And when the sky clears, when the soil is ready, when the fruit ripens, it is those few who gather the harvest. That's why endurance is the greatest wealth. Because with it, everything else eventually bows. Opportunities bow. Fortune bows. Even time bows to the man who simply refuses to quit. So when the going gets hard, and it will again, I promise you that, don't waste your breath asking, why me? Instead, whisper to yourself, this is the test. This is the fire. This is the place where men are made. And when you whisper that, you'll feel it, that shift inside your chest, that deep knowing that the hardship isn't the end, it's the beginning. You'll rise from your stool at the fire. You'll dust off the mud and you'll step into the storm like a man who already claimed his crown. So tonight, before you lay your head down, carve this vow into your soul. I will not quit when the road turns rough. I will not surrender when the fire grows hot. I will not bow when the shadows gather. I will endure and I will rise. And when the morning comes and you feel the weight again, repeat it. Repeat it until it no longer words but bone. Until endurance is not something you practice but something you are. For the truth is, fortune belongs to those who endure. Kingship belongs to those who endure. Wisdom belongs to those who endure. And if you, my friend, can carry that fire in your chest through every storm, then not even the grave can take it from you. So lean close to this campfire, let the rain fall outside, and let this truth sear itself into you like a brand on leather. The going will get hard, but you will be harder still. When you think the road been cruel to you, take a long look at the ones who came before. The titans we read about, the names carved into steel and stone, they were not born in comfort, they were raised in storms. Take Andrew Carnegie again. Folks know him as the Steel Baron, one of the richest men to ever breathe. But his story started in a one-room house in Dunfermline, Scotland, with a father too poor to keep food steady on the table. When his family crossed the ocean to America, young Andrew didn't step into gold or glory. He stepped into a factory basement, 12 years old, stoking boilers and running messages for pennies. He could have cursed his fate, said life was too cruel, too hard, and bowed his head. But he didn't. He used every ounce of hardship as schooling. He listened more than he spoke. He studied more than he played. And little by little, that boy who once had nothing built a mind sharper than steel and a fortune big enough to build libraries across the earth. Now let's speak of Rockefeller. People remember him as the oil king, the man whose wealth shook nations. But before the oil wells, before Standard Oil, he was just a boy whose father was a swindler, whose family lived with shame. John carried the weight of that shame like a stone in his pocket, but he refused to let it break him. While his classmates played, he studied ledgers. While other boys wasted hours, he practiced discipline. His faith was simple. I will endure, and the world will bend. And it did. The oil beneath the ground seemed to answer his will, because the man who endures becomes the man who commands. Even the old cowboy riding the frontier knew this truth. He wasn't after riches or fame, just survival. The winters bit hard, the summers burned hotter than hell, and every mile of trail tested his grit. But he learned that if you just keep riding, if you don't stop when the storm blinds your sight, somehow the trail opens up. Somehow the river appears when you thought the land was dry forever. The frontier broke most men, but the ones it didn't break became legends, not because the land was kind, but because they were harder than the land. And then there's Solomon, King Baldwin IV, if you prefer his face on this tale. He was a boy made king, struck by leprosy, told his life would be short and his reign weak. Yet instead of bowing to that sentence, Baldwin chose to rule with strength that no illness could take. He rode into battle wrapped in pain, his body failing him but his will untouchable. The people followed not his skin, not his health, but his fire. That the secret men do not follow the comfortable, they follow the unbreakable. Now hear the part you must hold close. None of these men waited for the road to soften. None of them cried out for lighter burdens. They shouldered what came and built themselves stronger under its weight. That's the difference between the quitters and the crowned. Quitters wait for the day when it's easier. The crowned understand that day never comes. The only thing that changes is the man. And you, yes, you listening right now by the fire, you are standing in the same furnace. Your hardships are not curses, they're chisels. They carve the weakness out of you. They strip the lies, the excuses, the shallow hopes. They leave behind only what can't be broken. That's why when the going gets hard, you don't beg for escape. You lean in. You whisper to yourself, this is where I sharpen. This is where I'm forged. You quit now, and the pain you carry will last forever. But if you stand, if you keep moving, the day will come when you look back and see that the very thing you thought was ending you was the making of you. Carnegie poverty built his hunger. Rockefeller shame built his discipline. Baldwin disease built his fearlessness. The cowboy storm built his grit. And your fire, the one you're in right now, is building the kind of man the world will not be able to ignore. So don't curse it. Don't flee it. Don't fold. Endure. Stand tall. Keep your eyes on the horizon and your boots moving forward. Because when the going gets hard, the world ain't punishing you, it's preparing you. And one day, when you've endured long enough, when you've carried the weight far enough, the crown that belongs to you will rest on your head, and you'll know deep in your bones, every scar, every bruise, every night in the storm was worth it. Now hear me clear when the fire surrounds you, when the storm pounds against your chest, when every voice in your head begs you to give up. There is only one choice. You rise, you stand, you endure, and you speak words that remind the universe who you are. You whisper, I am not broken by this fire. I am built by it. You declare, I am not afraid of the storm. I was born to ride through it. You shout, pain is not my prison. It is my passage. Doubt is not my master. It is my test. Fear is not my guide. It is my fuel. Repeat it until your bones believe it. Repeat it until the words become louder than the lies. That's how you kill the quitter inside you. Not once, not for a moment, but every single day until silence becomes strength and pain becomes power. Look back at history giants and you'll see the same creed carved in their lives. Lincoln faced failure after failure, defeat after defeat, yet he rose to lead a nation torn apart. Edison burned through thousands of failures before a single light bulb lit his night. They did not quit, and because they did not quit, the world remembers their names. But it ain't just their names that matter, it's what they stood for. They stood for endurance. They stood for persistence. They stood for that quiet, unshakable decision. I will not fold. I will not retreat. I will not let the weight break me. If I must crawl, I will crawl. If I must bleed, I will bleed. But I will not quit. Now imagine yourself speaking those words before you sleep. Imagine waking each dawn and looking in the mirror saying, I was not born to quit. I was not sent here to bow. I was not given breath to waste it on excuses. I was given breath to build, to endure, to rise. When you speak like that, something changes in you. Not tomorrow, not someday, but the very moment those words leave your lips. Because words are not empty. Words are weapons. Words shape the battlefield of your mind. And the man who owns his words owns his fate. The world will test you again, count on it. There will be days when everything feels lost, when you're sure you can't go another step. But those days are not curses, they're checkpoints. They ask the question, do you still believe? Do you still stand? Do you still carry the fire? And your answer must be yes, every time. I'll tell you something most men never hear. The crown belongs not to the fastest, not to the strongest, but to the one who refuses to quit. The man who crawls across the finish line still wears the crown, while the one who stopped halfway carries nothing but regret. So don't let your fire die. Don't trade it for comfort. Don't sell it cheap for the illusion of ease. Stand in the storm, face the fire, and know deep down that this is not where your story ends. This is where it begins. Let this be your creed, your daily law. I will not quit. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. When the going gets hard, I get harder. When the storm howls, I become still. When fear whispers, I speak louder. When pain burns, I forge stronger. I endure, I persist, I rise. I am unbreakable. Say it tonight. Say it in the morning. Say it when the doubt returns. And watch as the world bends before the man who refuses to bow. Because in the end, success ain't about talent. It ain't about luck. It ain't even about timing. It's about endurance. It's about grit. It's about staring the storm in the eye and saying, you may take my comfort, but you will never take my fire. And when you live that way, there comes a day when the storm itself bows to you. A day when pain no longer feels like punishment, but like proof that you are alive. Proof that you are growing. Proof that you are on the path. So when the going gets hard, smile, nod, stand, because now you know the truth. The fire is not your end, it is your beginning. And if you walk through it, if you endure, if you rise, then on the other side you will not only have victory, you will be victory itself. Close your eyes now, not the kind of closing that hides, but the kind that opens you inward. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast desert. The sand stretches endless, the wind howls, and every voice around you says, turn back, it's too far, too hard, too hopeless. But you don't turn. You take one step into the fire-hot sand, then another and another. Each step feels heavier, each mile longer, each thought more tempting to stop. But then you remember, you are not here by accident. You are not wandering. You are walking toward destiny, and destiny never gives itself to quitters. Now the desert shifts, the heat fades, a storm rises, the sky goes black, the rain lashes your skin, and thunder shakes the ground beneath your feet. This is no ordinary storm. This is the trial every great man faces, the storm of doubt, of exhaustion, of fear. Most men kneel here. Most men build shelter and wait, but not you. You keep walking, rain soaking your bones, lightning striking all around, because you know storms don't last forever. They test the man, they never own him. And sure enough, the storm breaks. The clouds part, the sun rises, and you see it, a mountain ahead, jagged, steep, towering above the clouds. The kind of mountain men point at and say, impossible. But you know better. You know mountains are not walls, they are invitations. You press your hand against the stone, feel the cold bite of the climb, and begin to rise. Every pull burns your arms. Every step tests your will. The higher you climb, the louder the voice of fear returns. You can't. You'll fall, you'll break, and maybe you slip once. Maybe your hands bleed. Maybe the ground below looks so far you tremble, but you keep climbing. Because you've learned the truth, the fall is only real if you let go. The climb is only impossible if you quit. Finally, after hours that feel like years, you reach the summit. The wind roars like a lion, the air is thin, but you are standing. You look down, and the desert, the storm, the climb, they are all behind you. You have conquered them, not by force, not by luck, but by endurance. And at the top, carved into the rock, you see the words every strong man eventually learns. The crown belongs to the one who refuses to quit. And as you read it, you realize the crown is already yours. Not tomorrow, not someday, now, because you endured what most men avoided. You kept going where most turned back. You rose when others folded, and now you stand, a living monument to grit, to fire, to persistence. Open your eyes, remember this vision, because it is not fantasy, it is blueprint. Every desert you face, every storm that howls, every mountain that looms, they are not curses, they are invitations. And you already hold the power to walk through them. So the next time the going gets hard, do not look for escape. Do not beg for ease. Do not pray for smaller mountains. Instead, whisper to yourself, this is my fire, this is my storm, this is my climb, and I will not quit. Because the man who whispers that, who believes that, who acts on that, that man becomes unstoppable. That man bends life to his will. That man is you. And from this night forward, let the rain outside your window remind you of the storm you already conquered. Let the crackle of the fire remind you of the desert heat you already walked through. Let every beat of your heart remind you that you were not built for quitting. You were built for rising. So rise, again, and again, and again. Let me take you back, friend, not to a desert or a storm this time, but to the streets of Cleveland, Ohio, mid-1800s. A boy named John was born into uncertainty. His father was a drifter, often gone, unreliable. His mother, strict and unyielding. They had little and nothing was handed to John D. Rockefeller. He started working as a clerk at 16 years old, earning just 50 cents a day. 50 cents. That what his sweat and hours were worth in the eyes of the world. But Rockefeller didn't complain. He didn't curse his place. He studied every number in the ledger. He watched every transaction. He learned discipline the way a blacksmith learns the forge, through repetition, through fire, through patience. And when opportunity knocked, he was ready. He saw where others saw risk. He saw order where others saw chaos. And he built an empire brick by brick, decision by decision, refusing to quit even when recessions, depressions, and public hatred threatened to tear him down. Now shift your eyes across the ocean to a small cottage in Dunfermline, Scotland. There a boy named Andrew Carnegie slept on the floor with his family. His father was a weaver, but the machines were replacing men, and the family starved. They sailed to America, broke and desperate, chasing a rumor of better days. Andrew began working in a cotton factory at 13 years old, 12 hours a day, for $1.20 a week. That wasn't a living wage. That wasn't survival. That was slavery in disguise. But Carnegie didn't fold. He found ways to rise. He borrowed books from a kind man who owned a small library and read them after long shifts. He took every chance to learn, to grow, to climb. By the time opportunity opened, he wasn't just a boy earning $1. He was a mind sharp as steel.
And he built railroads, steelworks, and eventually one of the greatest fortunes the world had ever seen. But if you strip it all down, the steel, the money, the name, it all began in hardship. It all began in fire. And then, in the quiet town of Omaha, Nebraska, almost a century later, another boy sat at his father's desk. His name was Warren Buffett. While other kids played, Buffett read financial reports. He studied businesses like a hunter studies tracks in the dirt. But Warren wasn't born into wealth. He delivered newspapers, saved nickels, and faced rejection when prestigious business schools laughed at his application. He was told no more times than he was told yes, but he refused to quit. He pressed on, sharpened his craft, and when he invested with patience so deep it scared men chasing quick riches. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Buffett, 3 men, 3 times, 3 battles, but one lesson: hardship is the refining fire. You don't need ease to succeed. You don't need privilege. You don't need everything lined up in your favor. What you need is grit, the decision that no matter the storm, you will not quit. Now I ask you, what is your Rockefeller moment? Where in your life are you earning 50 cents, thinking it too little, too unfair? What is your Carnegie moment? Where are you laboring in obscurity, tired and broke but with books within reach, wisdom waiting to be claimed? What is your Buffett moment? Where are you hearing no over and over but still holding on to the long game, still believing your persistence will pay off? The truth is, your story is no different. Every man who has ever risen has faced the breaking point. Every builder has faced the moment where quitting seemed easier, where turning back felt natural. But those who rise, they do not bow to that voice. They silence it. They build through it. They climb through it. So tonight, if you are tempted to quit, remember, you are standing in the same fire that forged kings of industry, titans of finance, builders of empires. You may not see the crown yet. You may not see the mountaintop, but you are on the path, and the path itself is proof you are called to finish. The world doesn't remember quitters. The world remembers those who endure. And when your name is spoken one day, let it be said of you the same way it is said of them. He was tested, he was pressed, but he never quit. And because of that, he built something that lasted. So steel yourself, cowboy, adjust your hat, tighten your boots, and ride on into the storm with a grin, knowing the storm is the very thing that proves you belong on the other side. There are a certain way a man learns to carry himself on the trail, not by reading fancy words in a book, not by memorizing rules, but by living them, by putting one boot down after the other through long miles of dust and rain. The trail will either break you or make you, same as life. And I reckon that what you need to hear right now. See, when the going gets hard, most men think it a sign they've wandered off course. But out here, we know better. Hard ground doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're crossing into territory worth reaching. If the earth was soft, if the road was smooth, every drifter, loafer, and dreamer would already be there. But the gold, the grazing lands, the promised rivers, they're always past the hard country, always past the places where the weak men turn back. Now I'll tell you something that Buffett himself once said, though he didn't use cowboy words. The stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient. Let me break that down under this night sky for you. Most men quit too soon. They sell out. They run scared. They want the shortcut, the quick return, the easy ride. But the wealth, the reward, the building of something real, that belongs to the one who waits, the one who stays on the saddle when the horse bucks, the one who ties his rope tighter when the wind picks up. Patience, friend. Patience is steel for the soul. And patience ain't just waiting around doing nothing. It's enduring. It's showing up every morning, no matter how heavy yesterday felt. It's stacking one stone, then another, until one day you look up and realize you've built a wall high enough to keep out the storm. Now let me give you some cowboy truths. Take them with you. Tuck them in your saddlebag for the miles ahead. First truth. When the trail gets rough, don't curse it. Thank it. The rough trail is the only trail that forges strength. A man who never been cold doesn't know the value of fire. A man who never gone hungry doesn't understand the blessing of bread. Same way, a man who never fought through hardship doesn't know the weight of victory. Second truth. Fear is a coyote in the dark. It yips, it howls, it tries to spook your horse, but 9 times out of 10, it got no teeth. The fear of moving forward is always louder than the danger itself. Step into the dark, and you'll find the coyote runs off as soon as you shine your lantern. Third truth. Don't measure yourself by how easy the ride is today. Measure yourself by whether you're still riding tomorrow. That's what separates men from boys, builders from talkers, Buffett from the dreamers who never bought a single share.
Fourth truth, pain don't mean stop. Pain means pay attention. When your muscles ache, it's because they're growing. When your heart hurts, it's because it's being stretched wide enough to carry more than it did yesterday. And when your mind feels tired, it's because it's being sharpened against the stone of struggle. I'll tell you a story to drive this nail deeper. Out on the plains, long before cities rose, settlers would travel west in wagons. Some wagons broke down, some travelers turned back, but others kept pushing. And those who pushed the longest, endured the storms, buried their dead, and pressed forward. Those are the ones who planted towns, raised barns, and carved futures from the wilderness. Life is the same. The ones who keep going when the trail is hardest are the ones who leave something behind that lasts. Buffett didn't quit when his investments dipped. Carnegie didn't quit when his wages barely fed him. Rockefeller didn't quit when critics called him a villain. And you? You don't quit just because the trail's steep, the sun hot, or the storm clouds are rolling in. Because quitting is easy. Quitting is soft ground, warm fires, and empty hands. But pressing on is how you build an empire. So hear my advice tonight. When the going gets hard, don't waste time wishing it was easier. Instead, wish you were stronger. Then build yourself into the man who is. Every storm is shaping you. Every fire is burning away the weak parts. Every setback is a sharpening stone. And when you come out the other side, and you will, you'll look back on these hard days not with regret, but with gratitude. Because it was these very miles, these very storms, these very nights by the fire where you learned what you were truly made of. Now take a deep breath. The fire burning low, the night still, but tomorrow the trail continues. And tomorrow you rise again. Stronger, steadier, sharper, because you're not built to quit. You're built to endure, and endure is what you will do.